Welcome back to Apex Sci-Fi. Archaeology is a dangerous science. We dig up the past and we try to interpret it. We find a bowl and we assume it was for religious rituals. We find a statue and we assume it was a god. We project meaning onto things that might have been meaningless. But what happens when an alien civilization excavates Earth thousands of years after we are gone? What happens when they find our toys? To a species that deals in cold, hard logic, a device that claims to predict the future is not a novelty. It is a terrifying artifact of immense power. Today's story is about the Zylarian Empire. They found the Orb of Mattel in the ruins of a North American shopping mall. They didn't see a plastic sphere filled with blue dye. They saw a quantum probability computer. And they decided to let it rule the galaxy. If you have ever made a life decision based on a coin flip, smash that like button. You are qualified to be an emperor. And if you want to see a star system spared from destruction because a floating triangle said, "Outlook good," subscribe and ring the bell. Shake the orb. Reveal the truth. High archaeologist Vok stood before the Grand Council of Zylar. The Zylarians were a species of logic. They did not have religion. They did not have superstition. They calculated variables. But they had hit a wall. The galaxy was chaotic. The war with the Krill Dominion was stalemated. The economy was fluctuating. Their supercomputers could not predict the outcome of the next cycle. They needed an edge. "My lords," Vok announced, his voice trembling with reverence. "We have returned from the dead world known as Terra. We found the temple." The council leaned forward. "The temple?" The inscription above the door read, "Toys are us," Vok explained. "We believe it translates to the arsenal of us." It was a repository of their most advanced technology. Vok signaled his assistants. They wheeled in a graph sled carrying a velvet pillow. On the pillow sat a black sphere. Smooth, shiny, with a single window on the bottom. "Behold," Vok whispered, "the Orb of Mattel." The council gasped. "What does it do?" asked High Counselor Zal. "It speaks," Vok said. "It does not use electricity. It does not use fusion. It utilizes a fluid dynamic interface to access the quantum realm. We believe the blue liquid inside is a suspension of nanobots capable of seeing timelines." Zal stood up. "Demonstrate." Vok approached the orb. He put on protective gloves. "The ritual is specific," Vok explained. "One must ask a binary question. A question of fate. Then one must agitate the fluid. We believe the shaking generates the kinetic energy required to pierce the veil of time." Vok cleared his throat. He looked at the black plastic ball. "Oh, great orb," Vok intoned. "Will the Zylarian harvest be plentiful this cycle?" He picked up the ball. He shook it. The sound of fluid sloshing echoed in the silent chamber. To the humans it sounded like cheap water. To the Zylarians it sounded like the ocean of time churning. Vok turned the ball over. He peered into the window. The blue triangle floated up from the murky depths. "It is manifesting," Vok cried. "The glyph is appearing." He read the text. "Yes." The council erupted in cheers. "A definitive answer," Zal shouted. "No probability curves. No margins of error. Just, yes." The ancients were masters of certainty. From that day on, the Zylarian Empire changed. They fired their strategists. They unplugged their predictive AIs. Why calculate the odds when you have the orb? The orb was moved to the imperial throne room. It was placed on a pedestal of obsidian. A dedicated caste of monks, the Shakers, was trained in the precise wrist action required to agitate the fluid without creating bubbles. Years passed. The empire flourished. When the orb said, "Signs point to yes," they invaded planets. When the orb said, "My sources say no," they retreated. It worked. Not because the orb was magic, but because the Zylarians acted with absolute, unwavering confidence. When you believe victory is guaranteed by a god ball, you fight harder. The placebo effect on a galactic scale. But then came the crisis of Sector 7. The Krill Dominion had amassed a fleet of world burners on the border. They threatened to glass the Zylarian capital. Emperor Zarkin, the new ruler, stood before the orb. He was terrified. The Krill fleet outnumbered them 3-1. The logical choice was surrender. The tactical computers screamed that resistance was suicide. But Zarkin had the orb. "Summon the High Shaker," Zarkin commanded. The High Shaker, an elder alien with one massive, muscular arm from years of shaking, approached the pedestal. The entire imperial court watched. Generals, admirals, politicians. The fate of 500 billion citizens rested on a floating plastic icosahedron. "Ask the question," the Shaker said. Zarkin took a breath. Orb of Mattel, Zarkin bellowed. If we engage the Krill fleet in open combat, will we be victorious? The Shaker grabbed the ball. He shook it. Violently. He put his back into it. The fluid swirled. The fate of the Empire rattled inside the plastic casing. He set it down. Zarkin leaned in. The generals leaned in. The triangle floated up. It bobbed. It twisted. Zarkin squinted. The blue dye was dark. The white text was faint. Reply hazy, try again. Silence. Absolute, horrified silence. What does it mean? General Krell whispered. It means the future is clouded, the high priest interpreted, sweating. The timelines are in flux. The orb cannot see. Ask again. Zarkin screamed. The enemy is at the gates. We need certainty. The Shaker picked it up again. He shook it harder this time. He shook it until his arm cramped. He slammed it down. The window cleared. Ask again later. Zarkin fell to his knees. Later? There is no later. The missiles are launching in an hour. Panic broke out in the court. The orb has forsaken us. The fluid has gone stagnant. We are doomed. General Krell drew his weapon. We must attack. If the orb will not lead us, we must lead ourselves. No, the high priest shouted. To act without the orb is heresy. If it says, ask later, it means patience is the key. We must wait. The argument turned into a brawl. The Zylarian leadership was paralyzed. Half wanted to attack, half wanted to wait for the orb to recharge. Meanwhile, in orbit, the Krill fleet watched. The Krill admiral was confused. Why aren't they deploying their fleet? He asked his scanner officer. They're just sitting there. Perhaps it is a trap, the officer suggested. The Zylarians are known for their tactical genius, which was actually just random orb answers. If they are not moving, they must have a weapon we cannot see. The Krill admiral hesitated. He remembered the last time they fought the Zylarians. The Zylarians had attacked a heavily defended moon during a meteor storm because the orb said, without a doubt. It was so insane it worked. They are too confident, the Krill admiral decided. They are waiting for us to enter a kill zone. I do not like this. Back in the throne room, Zarkin was weeping. Please, he begged the plastic ball. Give me a sign. Just one sign. Should we fight? He grabbed the ball himself. He violated protocol. He shook it with the desperation of a dying king. He looked. Better not tell you now. Zarkin stared at the text. It is protecting us, Zarkin whispered. It knows something we don't. It knows that if we know the truth we will falter. It is telling us to embrace the unknown. Zarkin stood up. A strange calm washed over him. The orb says nothing, Zarkin announced. Therefore we do nothing. Sire? We hold position. We lower our shields. We open a channel to the Krill. Surrender? No. Confusion. Zarkin hailed the Krill admiral. Greetings, Zarkin said, sitting on his throne, holding the toy in his lap. You are probably wondering why we have not fired. The Krill admiral narrowed his eyes. We are. I consulted the oracle, Zarkin smiled mysteriously. And it told me that I shouldn't tell you. The Krill admiral froze. Better not tell you now. To a paranoid military commander, that meant one thing. I have a trap so horrible I can't even speak of it. The Krill admiral looked at the Zylarian fleet. Silent. Shields down. Weapons cold. It was the ultimate display of arrogance. They are baiting us, the admiral concluded. They want us to fire first so they can unleash whatever the orb promised them. Fear took hold. Retreat, the Krill admiral ordered. This is a setup. We are leaving. The Krill fleet turned around and warped away. They didn't want to mess with a species that took war advice from a black sphere and smiled about it. Zarkin watched them leave. He looked down at the magic 8-ball. You genius, he whispered. You knew. You knew they would fold. He kissed the plastic. All hail the Mattel. The Zylarian Empire entered a golden age of peace. They never found out that the toy was made in a factory in China for 50 cents. They never found out that the answers were floating on a 20-sided die. They built cathedral-sized temples shaped like the number 8. And to this day, before any major galactic treaty is signed, the Emperor must publicly shake the sphere. If it says, don't count on it, the treaty is burned. If it says, it is certain, the galaxy rejoices. And somewhere deep in the archives there is a forbidden text. A manual found with the device. It contains the warnings, choking hazard, and not for children under 3. The Zylarian theologians debate its meaning endlessly. They believe children under 3 refers to civilizations that have not yet reached type 3 on the Kardashev scale. They believe they are finally worthy of the toy. This has been Apex Sci-Fi. We look for meaning in the stars, but sometimes the universe just shakes us up and gives us a random answer. If you think the Magic 8 Ball would make a better president than most politicians, smash that like button. Comment below, what would you ask the Galactic Oracle? Subscribe. Or don't. Cannot predict now. Transmission ended.